Hey, Carl. Yo, what's up, Rich? Hey, Carl, what time is it? It's time for Travels with Carl, baby. Let's roll. Let's ride, Carl.
You are exactly right, Carl. As always, it's time for Travels with Carl, baby. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're having a great Memorial Day weekend. Hope you enjoyed the Indianapolis 500. It was the 110th running, and it was absolutely maybe one of the greatest race finishes I've ever seen. Now, I may have told you before, but I've been to see the race live twice. My father was a huge Indianapolis 500 fan, so my sister and I kind of carrying on the tradition. But we didn't go this year, and she watched it in Tucson, and I watched it here in the beautiful state of Washington. And right now, I am sitting outside in my gorgeous yard, which I love more than my house. I love my yard. And you may hear some birds chirping, and there's a beautiful fire burning. Hey, look, right over here. Got a half a moon up there. Look at all the bees up here. They're just loving this rhododendron. They're not honeybees. They're weird little, small little, kind of a bumblebee. But they're doing their thing, man. I just wish they'd been here a little earlier for my cherry trees, because very low yield on these babies behind me. This guy right here, maybe like a dozen cherries on there. But this cherry tree up here on the over there by the greenhouse, that's got a lot of cherries on it. I'm guardedly optimistic about my farming future. Anyway, it's episode 39, Memorial Day weekend. 3 days, 3 episodes, and I'm gonna mend my ways from now on. I learned the hard lesson. You just gotta, stay every week. It's gotta be methodically planned out, uploaded, shot ahead of time. Some kind of meaningful drawing or sketch. I didn't even pull a photograph off the internet today because, well, for one reason, I'm going to be talking about my 39th job at the Sheraton Key West Resort. I think that's what it was called at the time. Now, I have to admit there was some confusion between job 39 and job 40, and I'm not going to tell you what 40 is, but it's another hotel on Key West. So altogether, I worked at 3 different hotels on the Sacred Key. The Sheraton Hotel there was what I like to call like a shoebox hotel. The architecture had absolutely no redeeming qualities. It was as basic as a shoebox. It had nice rooms, and it had a nice pool, and it was on a great part of the island, a little further away from town, which can be a positive thing if you want serenity and peace and quiet. And it had a fairly decent beach for Key West. Key West's not really known for its beaches. But there was one really good story. And also I met a couple of pretty cool guys. There were a lot of Russians there at the time. And there were a lot of people, what I like to say, pimping them out. They were getting them work visas and skimming money off of that for themselves. So there were a lot of weird things like that going on. Like the Israelis had like a monopoly in one area of town on T-shirts, and they were also were notorious for overcharging people for these T-shirts. Anyway, I won't get into that story, but there were a lot of Russians working in the hotels, and people from the Eastern Europe and Western Europe. But there were a lot of Russians there. And one guy that I worked with, who was an engineer or maintenance department, but we call them engineers sometimes, but they had worked not at Chernobyl, but at an identical power plant, to Chernobyl in Russia before they emigrated to the United States. It was pretty cool. He told me some interesting facts about, working in a nuclear power plant. I never really talked to anybody that, had like a hands-on bill-paying job at a nuclear power plant, but he sure enough had, and a famous one. And he said he wasn't at all surprised that Chernobyl malfunctioned because of the poor quality of the building and of the equipment. But like I was telling you, the Hyatt had kind of played itself out. The human resources director, she was an idiot. We called her Clowny, because sometimes she would dress up like a clown and ride her bicycle around town. I mean, I'm not making this shit up. But she was fucking a few fries short of a Happy Meal, okay? And the whole thing with people trying to take my money and being the only bellman there, and then getting one bogus doorman, and then getting another cokehead bellman. I pretty much had it with the Hyatt, and my general manager getting walked off the property and fired. I was, I gave him 2 weeks notice and moved on. And I'm not really sure why I picked the Sheraton, or if somebody offered me a job, because that's a little blurry. But there was one time where, like, guests will leave reviews or comment cards on their experience at the hotel. Okay, and if you can get, if a guest writes you a nice one of these, it's a great thing, man. Everybody, you get like lots of pats on the back, and they put it up in the office, so everybody else can read it. But unfortunately, if you get a really bad one, they might put that up too. I was really blessed. I never got any really bad ones, or if I did, they never put them up. But this one guy, I don't even remember this dude's name at all. And I'm not sure that I ever did know his name. And I'm not sure if he even spoke any English, because I never had a conversation with him. But and he kind of had people like interpreting for him, but it was this just crazy Russian guy, and I don't know what kind of training they gave him, or I had nothing to do with him, but he wasn't there long. But one time I came in and I was talking to my manager about him, and I said, I don't know what's up with this guy, man. Like, does he even speak English? And he goes, look at this comment card. He goes, he's gone. We let him go today. And it said, then, like, ... then the bellman literally threw our bags into the room. I don't know. I mean, I'll granted, that's that's not nearly as funny as, you know, a $2 million renovation turning into a $12 million renovation, or the manager getting fired after 20 some years with the Hyatt for absconding with millions of dollars. But I've never seen a bellman accused of actually throwing the luggage into the room, but I could just picture this big hulk of a, you know, Terminator dude just tossing the bags into the room. I'm pretty sure he probably never even stayed in a hotel that had a bell service, or even understood the whole concept of taking the person's luggage in and setting it up on a stand for them and getting them ice and showing them how everything in the room worked, or, you know, had like no fucking concept of what a bellman actually does. Yeah, like I said, it was on a nice, quiet part of the island. It was had nice rooms and everything, a nice pool, but nothing around it. Like there was nothing that you would want to walk to except for the beach. It's like I said, it did have a nice beach. And some people don't really want any nightlife or entertainment. And if you wanted to get away from it on Key West, this would actually be the place to stay. So, you know, I don't know. I looked at some pictures of it online today, and I'll pick out something nice for the painting. But yeah, it looks like they spent a lot of money since I was there on it, because this is, you know, 2026, and that was probably 2005, something like that. Anyway, welcome back to Travels with Carl. If you're not sure what Travels with Carl is, check out some of the other episodes, but it's about me and Carl's my 31-foot long Alumilite motorhome, and our travels, which it's actually more about me than Carl. And it's about Travels with Carl is really like a metaphor for my travels through life as an artist, always shooting for the Super Bowl level or the World Series level, and maybe getting to AAA, or instead of Indy or Grand Prix, I got like to stock cars, something like that. So far, but I haven't given up yet, and that's part of my story. Is people either make it big, like big, or they don't make it at all and they quit and they give up. I'm one of those people that's sort of in between those two. Well, that's not true. I'm one of those people that didn't make it all the way to the World Series yet, but I was also just too stubborn and too much of an artist to ever quit being an artist or give up. Like when I'm working a couple of bill-paying jobs right now, which I'm not allowed to tell you what they are, but I would for sure quit as soon as I don't have to work, giving them both, well, 2 weeks notice. But I'm giving them the hasta la vista, baby, because I want to travel Europe and visit all of the art galleries and museums all over Europe. I want to explore Europe like I explored the United States. So far I've lived in 12 states and visited 47 of them. Hey, we might be getting a couple more. Cuba's looking pretty promising. I called Trump a pedophile the other day, and a new coworker of mine wanted to see what Travels with Carl was all about, and I asked her if she liked it, and she said, "I'm a huge Trump supporter." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And she goes, "And you called him a pedophile?" I said, "Yeah, I did." I go, "I'm afraid I believe that he is." And she goes, I don't think he is, and I think he's done a lot of great things for America." I said, "Well, that's okay. You're entitled to your feelings about the Trumpster." And I go, far as I'm concerned, it doesn't affect our friendship. I just disagree with you, and I disagree with everything that he's ever said or done. But you know what? It's not that I want to be an ass, you know, which, I've been accused of that before. Not often, okay? And not by anybody that I really care about. But, oh, there goes some giant crows. I'm hoping to attract some crows down here. I've got bird feeders right up here. Of course, I'm, lifelong caretaker of the hummingbird species, which is why I'm interested in Cuba. They have the bee hummingbird there, which is actually the smallest of all hummingbirds. You get a lot of species of hummingbirds in Cuba. And I'm going to try and repopulate Europe with hummingbirds. Now, I know there's some friends of mine think that's a terrible idea, and they don't want me to even talk about doing that, but I'm going to do it. You know why? A, we don't know that Europe didn't have hummingbirds before. I mean, it seems unlikely that they would just be in North and South America, right? So if I take them to Portugal, they can fly across the straits into Morocco, into Africa. People love hummingbirds. I haven't met anybody yet that doesn't like hummingbirds, okay? Why deprive half of the world of the hummingbird? So I'm thinking Cuba could be a hot spot. It could scoop up quite a few different species. Now, acquiring hummingbirds or hummingbird eggs, or just live hummingbirds, and getting them to another country, if I didn't have to go through customs, wouldn't be a problem at all, because all they need during the flight is, sugar water about every 30 minutes to an hour. And if they're in a little cage, they're going to be fine. They can go without bugs and protein for a couple days, but they got to have sugar water. Unless they're asleep, they got to eat, or they'll just keel over and die. So I know I could keep them alive. It's just like, how easy would it be to bribe somebody in customs? Or how could I smuggle hummingbirds into a carry-on in something that didn't look like a cage, but wouldn't kill them, wouldn't suffocate them? Like, I couldn't put them in a thermos or something like that, you know what I mean? Plus, TSA, they're always wanting to take my thermoses and stuff from me anyway. But I digress. So that's a little bit about what Travels with Carl is. Also, I always plug my book, and it's Amendment 21-A. It's the word amendment 21, the dash symbol, and the letter A. Okay, it's about ending the war on drugs, or as I like to say, ending prohibition, because prohibition on drugs is just as bad and just as stupid as when they had prohibition on alcohol. Hold on a second. I gotta throw some wood on the fire here. My fire is going out. There you go. And we've had a war on drugs for over 100 years. I mean, it's just stupid. It really is pointless. And you look today, they're still like, we'll never given up. They're shooting up boats carrying cocaine leaving Venezuela. I mean, they haven't done it in a couple weeks, but that's war crime there. That's what that is. Shooting people that were their watercraft was blown up, and then killing them, shooting them in the water. You can't do that. First off, it was illegal to shoot them in the first place. But to kill them once their ship is disabled, that's a war crime. The other one is kind of like a war. I guess it is a war crime too, but it's certainly not an authorized war. That's just like Iran. It's not an authorized war. We should not be doing that, or he should not be doing that without Congress's approval. You know, I'm very political guy. So like I said, I talk about one of my jobs every week, and this time it was the Sheraton Key West and the bellman that threw the couple's luggage. Actually threw my luggage into my room. That's the funniest. That's the funniest guest comment card I ever read in my life. And I talk about my book, and I also talk about my website, okay, which is www.vangogh.inc. So it's like a play on words, like Van Gogh Incorporated, only instead of .inc, it's .ink. Get it? Like a printmaker, like that kind of ink. So check it out. You can buy something as small as having a piece of my art on a T-shirt, or you can buy a giant print. Everything on the website is prints. Okay, I don't sell original work on the website. You have to get that directly from me. But I'm easy to reach. You can reach me right through the website. So I plugged my book. I plugged 52, this is the culmination of this 1 year long project. I'm compressing 52 jobs, or 56 years of working into 1 year. So this project started with episode number 1, TNR Deli, and it's going to go all the way through I'm considering my 52nd job. There's actually more than 52. Okay, some of them didn't make the cut. But I've traveled, like I said, I've visited 47 states, and I've lived in 12 of them. And I visited a couple of other places, but right now my thing is Portugal. I bought a farm in Portugal, and goal is to get 1,000 cherry trees in there so that I can retire by selling cherries. I would never have dreamed that I would be going to another country to be a farmer. That's the only way I could figure out how to retire. Social Security is not going to do it for me. And if you're younger than I am, I'm just going to give you a little heads up. It's probably not going to do it for you. But you may be like a computer programmer, or, doing something with Bitcoin, or, you may be just fine. You could be a multi-millionaire and be a kid today, When I was growing up, that was really impossible. And, just to put things into perspective about our disparity with income, there was only a handful of billionaires when I was growing up. Now there's over 2,000 billionaires. And Elon Musk, they think when SpaceX goes public that he could become the world's first trillionaire. Well, I wrote a little pamphlet, or what do we call them? A little zine when I was in college, called The Hotel Billionaire. And my suggestion is we take every billionaire. We're going to have to dress it up a little bit, but take over Guantanamo Bay, turn that into a luxurious hotel, but still with cells, and then lock every billionaire up there and hold them against their will, feed them and everything, and water them, and let them have bathroom, nice clean facilities, and all, just like a nice hotel. Like I said, we're going to have to dress it up a bit, but the idea is that nobody should have more than, and I'm going to be real generous here, I'm going to say nobody should have more than $50 million, okay? I mean, not, did I say that 50 million? $500 million. I'm going to say it's okay to have $500 million, okay? But that's the cutoff. Anything else after that, it goes into a slush fund that is divvied up, kind of like the way they pay people in Alaska a percentage of the oil. Every time somebody makes a dollar more than has in their possession a dollar more than $500 million, it goes right into the slush fund. And of course, they're paying taxes on their $500 million because there's a lot of people that, that don't, like Trump, not paying any taxes. Musk, no, Bezos, they're not paying taxes. Okay, that's bullshit. It's bad enough that they've got too much money that they're fucking up the whole system, but they don't even want to pay their fair share of taxes. So fuck them. I got no sympathy for greedy motherfuckers like that. Wow, there went a big stellar jay. Well, you got a lot of beautiful birds in Portugal too. They've got one bird there that beekeepers are not really popular. That's not real popular with beekeepers. It's a bee eater, and they actually eat honeybees. So they try and scare them away from the cherry trees because we need honeybees. Okay, in fact, a lot of groves, cherry orchards, and other kind of orchards too. Almonds, I know in California, almonds are a big one. You have to get bees in there, especially if you have thousands of trees. There's no way a few bees can handle that. You've got to take in supers of bees to get the job done. Because like this tree back here, it had way more flowers on it than that didn't get pollinated. So no cherry. But if you can get 1,000 trees and you can make, around $250 in cherries per tree, or that's $250,000 a year. See, that's more money than I can ever need. It's way more money than I've ever made. But the idea that I could go to another country and buy a farm, and I already paid cash for the farm. I mean, it was 20,000 euros, and it's got a stone house on it too. A granite house with walls this thick. I shit you not. Doesn't have a roof, and it's only one room, but it's 4 walls, and it used to have a roof. So I'm gonna trick that out and put a really nice bathroom in there and a really nice kitchen, and on the first floor and a second floor with a couple of bedrooms, and I'm gonna cover the whole thing instead of putting a roof on it because it doesn't have any windows. I'm gonna cover the whole thing plus a whole lot of land around it with a gigantic greenhouse like the kind they make in Belgium and the Netherlands. They do a lot of indoor growing there. So that's my plan. I'm gonna keep the stone structure, but I'm gonna build a greenhouse over it, and then it'll have a door down front so you can walk right through the door. But when you look up, it'll be like open sky above you. I mean, it'll have a greenhouse roof over it, but you'll just see the stars in the sky from your bed. Isn't that cool? Anyway, thanks for tuning in. You could do me a big favor. I only have 35 subscribers now, and I'd like to have 1 million. Okay, and what I'm thinking is that eventually someone like, someone like Mercedes Blanchet or somebody like the Daily Beast. Wow, how about that? That was a beautiful little airplane, just flew right over. They'll help me out and help me promote my channel and teach me how to get more likes and subscriptions and everything, because I was kind of hoping by this time, episode 39, I think I'd have like 39,000 subscriptions or something, 35. That's a lot lower than I thought it was going to be. Hey man, I'm out. 30 minutes exactly. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Tomorrow I'm going to do another one, and you're going to really like this hotel. I'm not telling you which one it is, but it's still in action, and it's in Key West, and it has a lot more good stories, man. Let's ride, baby. Let's ride.
Surrounded by the beast, the birds and the breeze, his motor home in the woods where creativity sees. Some will abode, colors come alive on canvas. He paints, pressing on his strife with the spirits of the woods. He dances in delight, creating masterpieces every single